We all go through patches where we make decisions against our value system. We all turn heel at one point. It's just a matter of if you see the light. If you take a really good guy and then have them lose their way, don't give up on that guy. No, there's good in him. Like that's beautiful. Those stories are beautiful.
As time progresses, your ability to do what you once did will decrease, and when a man knows Father Time has overtaken him, the desperation becomes tenfold. At rock bottom, desperate men do in fact do desperate things. In a timeline where CM Punk returned to WWE, Vince McMahon no longer runs it, and Stone Cold Steve Austin wrestled the match, a John Cena heel turn was the only thing left that would cement the 2020s as the personification of insanity. The WWE's greatest good guy has finally been pushed over the edge and now begins a whole new chapter in his career where he connects with his most ruthless self, embracing his most villainous qualities. For years, there was untapped potential for John. We'd seen him embrace the hard, but if he just embraced the hate, it could add layers to a character that had been the same for many, many years. But now in his final year of in-ring competition and chasing history, he's sold his soul. This story is about so much more than just an old man who sees that his time may in fact be up. More than the franchise who held it down, seeing that his empire is thriving without him. This story has been touched on in some of John's greatest rivalries dating back many years. Now the same people who he gave everything to are questioning his legacy, and maybe "you can't see me" is more than a catchphrase. Maybe we've truly never been able to see what John Cena was going through all along. There's an unspoken beauty to seeing familiar faces in familiar places. It felt as though the leader of the C Nation would ride off into the sunset as the one guy who at his peak never turned his back on the people most important to him. John Cena as a babyface has always had the same core fundamentals. Never give your word and not hold firm to it. Never cheat, never quit, never take any days off, and never give up. Under the surface, there's the burden of carrying the company. We have to understand John's parasocial relationship with a certain portion of the audience. A group of people that believe he's nothing more than a comic book hero come to life with zero layers to his character that simply needs to show that he can be a bad guy. He remains true to those who gave him an opportunity to live out a childhood dream, and despite all the noise, he feels an obligation to those people to remain true and carry the company. The prevailing thought was always he wins too much and it's time for him to change. A guy who came in clutch in so many situations that he was given the nickname Big Match John. Maybe the greatest winner in WWE history. But what happens when the greatest winner just can't win anymore? For 7 years, John Cena hasn't won a televised singles match. Looking at this, you start to see something come to the forefront. Despite being older, not being able to do some of the things he once could, he still thinks that he can hang. This slaps you right across the face when you actually take a second, step back, and look at his recent programs. To understand his underlying story, we have to go back a decade to the 2010s. It was here where John Cena started to find himself on the outside looking in. The new generation of stars were taking over, but he still continued to believe that he was unbreakable despite doing everything he claimed to despise, thinking that time would never catch up to him. You started to see Cena take a step back in 2015, of course the year of the United States Championship Open Challenge. This has always been seen as a masterful late career resurgence where he gave everyone else an opportunity, but leaning into this narrative, you could assess it as a reset phase for him where he needed to regroup and see if he could still do this. In 2016, AJ Styles took WWE by storm, and in a few short months, he started to proclaim himself as the face that runs the place, which John Cena took massive issue with. AJ believed that he was the standard, while John knew that there was no one who could lay claim to that tagline aside from him. On the August 2nd episode of SmackDown Live, Styles tells Cena, "You don't get a trophy for participation, you get a trophy for being a winner. Why are you still here?" His answer, he's here out of love. He loves to do Make-A-Wishes, the SBs, the Teen Choice, the Today Show, telling AJ that he was only here to be a good wrestler. Adding, he's here out of love, what the hell was he doing here? Almost defending the company from an intruder. Cena lost to Styles at SummerSlam and started to question himself. Maybe this wasn't his WWE anymore. He left his wristbands in the center of the ring and did what he criticized The Rock for doing just 4 years ago. He went Hollywood. John and Dwayne's beef was very simple. Rock didn't like that Cena kept putting dirt on his name. The reason he was doing so was because he saw him as a phony who left the company he proclaimed to love high and dry, saying that he would never do that himself. Rock tried to make Cena understand the Hollywood schedule. The work he's putting in is something that he won't understand until maybe he gets to that same point. When AJ Styles said the same thing about him is when appearances started to become sporadic. In today's day and age, this is a very interesting dynamic to lean into because the roles are now reversed. Now the company's ace was gone. WWE looked elsewhere to build a new star, and the formula was right there in front of them. Pick out the best parts of John Cena and give it to someone who they believed could run with the ball. After all, he was still here because the other guy couldn't do his job. There's no one who's fully taken the reins. The man they're penciling in is colossally flopping, and John sees this as the truest form of embarrassment. John understands what's going on here, and there's also truth to this promo. He sees that Roman is not ready, and despite having lost a step, despite there being a new crop of talent, he's still got the name value. He's still got the company's Golden Boy tagline, and he'll still be called back. Cena ends up losing this match to Roman Reigns, and over the next little bit, a theme emerges in all these rivalries. They all result in losses, but John still thinks he can go. We really start to see his doubts kick in near the tail end of the 2010s. He was no longer a full-time participant at this time, and come 2020, his self-doubts really become apparent. What am I doing for WrestleMania? He goes on to say that he's going to do the right thing. It should go on without him, and that he will not be there at WrestleMania 36. This is not goodbye, but this is goodbye for now. Even though he says this, when he's confronted by The Fiend, that one last ride mentality takes over. Bray eventually tells Cena that time can either hurt or heal you. He attributes his downward spiral, the Funhouse, and The Fiend to that one night in New Orleans back in 2014. Something that for a portion of the audience is seen as the night that Bray should have came out on top with a career-defining win. But John doesn't see it like this. He counters by saying he's not the reason Bray fails. Bray fails because he's lazy. Bray Wyatt's biggest enemy is Bray Wyatt. He then poses the question to Michael Cole, the soundtrack of his career. Why does no one ever say that to him? Why does no one ever question when he loses? Where are the excuses for him? Going on to list the dismantling at the hands of Lesnar in 2014, the loss against Punk in 2011, One Night Stand 2006, adding that he literally had to purchase a ticket to attend WrestleMania 34. Every time he's counted out, he brings himself back because in his mind, there's no one tougher than John. After all, we're never the bad guy in our own story. He says WWE needs to invest in their future, and he lists off guys that he believes can carry the burden. Bray enters the equation and reminds John that he craves the spotlight like an addict. The magic of this promo is Wyatt says to Cena, "One day I stopped fighting the voices and listened to them." On the night before WrestleMania SmackDown, John says that Bray is not on his level, not even on the level below him. If you're following, do you see how each of these opponents he's facing, he's always got that belief within him, that despite there being doubts, he can still rise to the occasion. It happened with AJ, it happened with Roman, and again, it happened with Bray. You can go back and see for yourself, one common denominator in all of these is John continually calls each of these wrestlers overvalued, overrated, and overhyped. Maybe he's deflecting onto others what he's told by the fans. The beauty of the Firefly Funhouse match is it's anything you want it to be. If you hate it, it's non-existent, it's a pandemic fever dream. If you think it's Bray Wyatt's intrusive thoughts, it can be that. Or maybe it's an alternate side of John Cena's career. The cinematic match features Bray saying, "Let's take a look at who you really are, John. You're about to face your most dangerous opponent yet, yourself." He enters the funhouse, and once he goes through the door, the first person he comes across is a Vince McMahon puppet. He asks Cena whether he has enough ruthless aggression to excel beyond his wildest dreams. Does he have enough ruthless aggression to make sacrifice of mind, body, and soul in order to become a success in this company? Show me, or you're fired. They then reenact Cena's debut with Wyatt telling John that this is just sad, then equating him to being nothing more than muscle. Cena has gone on record to say that the Ruthless Aggression era version of him was a failure because by the brass he was given a golden opportunity and he failed. Then we kick it thugonomic style where the doctor dishes out that Bray has been given so many chances and failed over and over. Husky Harris was overweight, the mandible claw was nothing more than a ripoff. His rebuttal was that John Cena was the golden goose. He's untouchable, but he's not a hero. He's a bully, he's a horrible person. He takes the weaknesses of others and turns them into jokes. He'll do anything for fame, anything but change. We then go to 2014 where, according to Wyatt, Cena is supposed to be a man of the people, but he didn't listen. He shows imagery of all the fans singing along with this new exciting star in the WWE, but he wasn't elevated. Instead, John did what he always does. The fans wanted him, the fans needed him, but they didn't get him. 6 years ago, John Cena made the wrong choice and didn't swing. Now it was time for him to fix it. Once Cena takes a swing, we're taken into an alternate universe where Cena's the bad guy. This leans into that feeling from earlier that a heel Cena could have been a prosperous change for him. Bray channels his inner Eric Bischoff and introduces NWO John Cena, a new attitude, all the while we see some of his biggest losses retrospected. These are Cena's intrusive thoughts about how if he just gave in, if he cheated, if he did things the wrong way, maybe the story would be different. Cena had all of this inside of him the whole time, and he just had to let it out. It was Bray who was the one that got it out of him. Remember, anyone the Fiend touches changes. Finn changed, Seth changed, Daniel changed. It took time, but Cena also changed. Another loss for John Cena. We then move into the summer of 2021, where John once again meets Roman Reigns. This time a different version of the face of the company, someone who's finally found his way. He tells him there's no protecting him. There was one person in this entire world that could humble him. He came back to teach him a lesson. 1, 2, 3, and he's the answer to a trivia question. Also adding that yes, he will go to a Hollywood movie set and he will take the Universal title with him until WrestleMania in Dallas the next year. John Cena doesn't say anything about defending it or even showing up. At SummerSlam, the champ isn't here, the champ is gone. Again, this is unquestionably the toughest competition out there for him to face, but what happens? Again, it's a rehash of the Styles rivalry. It's a rehash of the first time he met Roman. It's a rehash of when he met Bray. He thinks he has it, but again, after talking a big game, he falls into the same vices. He loses in the main event of SummerSlam against someone he at the top of his lungs yelled was not ready, couldn't be protected, and couldn't replace him. Superman wasn't Superman anymore. John again goes away until he's back to celebrate his 20th anniversary in 2022. A propping up of WWE's most selfless superstar, a nod to an entire generation of wrestling fans, but it was this same year where someone wasn't celebrating their tenure, but making their return to WWE. Cody Rhodes came back to the company and within a matter of months became essentially the new John Cena. The similarities between these two are scary. Cody, the guy who in present day WWE makes all the towns, makes all the appearances, similar to his WrestleMania 41 opponent, has the burden of carrying the company. He's in a portion of his career that John Cena went through many moons ago. He's the modern day John Cena, pec tear and all. Over both their careers, they're both known to absorb a great deal of punishment and their resolve is unmatched. Their dedication isn't questioned and their morals can never be corrupted. In 2022, Cena talks about how he's wrestled a match every single year since 2002 and doesn't want to let that streak end. He can't let go of the business despite not having won a singles match in forever. So he comes back to continue the streak, and the next year is a piece of this puzzle that isn't talked about as much as I think it should be, but one where history repeats itself again. WrestleMania 39 against Austin Theory. Similar to the COVID year against The Fiend, you see that John doesn't want to wrestle. He doesn't want to take on this competition, but his head drags him back into it. Theory tells John that he remembers watching him on TV with his mom and that he inspired him. He wants a match against him, but Cena says no. He declines, and again, what's repeated in this promo? It's that theme of opportunity. Those themes of the person in front of him having no heart, no soul, unable to beat the great John Cena. then telling him that he's the ghost of Christmas future, that he's in the phase that almost got him fired. Austin talks about Cena's catchphrases and questions if he's finally giving up before saying that you don't want to meet your heroes because all they do when you meet them is disappoint you. We get an avenue into how Cena feels about the audience, calling them the most harsh, vocal, ruthless, critical audience, and that they will eat Austin alive, just like they ate him alive. So there's undertones that even though he didn't say that it's getting to him, all the years beforehand did land. They did strike a chord, capping off by telling Theory that he just made the biggest mistake of his life. Also the same night where he gave Cody Rhodes the cosign by raising his hand. In Hollywood comes maybe the most uninspiring performance John has ever had. Another loss, another goodbye. Later in the year he meets Solo Sikoa. The same story repeats itself. He calls him a ripoff Taz, and again he loses. He keeps coming back for one more fight despite in his heart of hearts knowing that time has passed him by. This is him knowing what he's been, a proven winner. It all came so easy to him that despite him truly knowing that he's not the same, he thinks that he's a piece away. Dynasties don't just crumble. They always think that they're at or somewhere close to winning it all again because all they know is winning. That's what continues to happen to Cena in every single rivalry. Let's jump to 2024 where Cody Rhodes, after suffering punishment that Cena in his heyday didn't even go through, wins the big one and celebrates with the adulation of everyone. Everyone, including the GOAT himself. Maybe this was where he saw the writing on the wall, as a few months later, this happened.
Tonight, I officially announce my retirement from the WWE.
You knew it was going to come to an end sooner or later, but that night in Toronto signaled the beginning of the end. John Cena announced he'd retire in 2025, also adding that they were planning to do something unforgettable. His reasoning wasn't entirely clear, but two things were. It was for the people as a thank you, and that he would wrestle from January to December in the ballpark of 30 to 40 dates. So now we kick off the farewell tour. January 6th live on Netflix. FU Cena chants had become Thank You Cena chants, and he brings up championship number 17. This to a chorus of You Deserve It chants. He then immediately dismisses this, saying that it will never happen because of the streak. He hasn't won a match in 2,446 days, admitting again it's the new generation's time, not his. I sound like a broken record, but again, a light bulb goes off in his head. He says he can't do something, but again he remembers he's John Cena. Of course he can do it. He's going to win the Royal Rumble. It's that simple. He makes it to the final two, but loses to another wrestler from this generation. And this is the moment where realization sets in. One shot remains, the Elimination Chamber. If not, his final year will be written without him main eventing the show of shows. It was on the post-show press conference where John Cena said he would field no questions. One of the first things he says is in his over 23 years, he's never used his pull for a spot he didn't earn, which is poetic because while all the other superstars had to qualify for the chamber match, he was plopped in there, no earning necessary. Quote, tonight standing in that ring, I wanted this to be a tour of goodwill. I've openly admitted I don't know how much I have left in the tank and I just wanted to do something that would be nice for all of us to get together and have a good time. Unfortunately, tonight it dawned on me that that's not best for business. He eventually went on to say what was best for business was to main event WrestleMania and confidently say he will win a 17th championship. Then bringing in the same dynamic we've gone through in this video. He wants people to slander his name and think that they have a chance against the greatest of all time. The same talk that was there against Bray, the same talk that was there against Roman twice, the same talk that was there against AJ, Austin Theory, Solo Sikoa. Again, it repeats itself. But you guys know what happened after this press conference. Just like The Rock, he went away. He didn't promote it in the slightest, all while the roster called him out for being a hypocrite and taking a handout. Fans were also left high and dry, just 2 appearances in a year that was supposed to be a celebration. Then comes the unthinkable, Elimination Chamber 2025. He enters second last, and the man who has the final spot is a guy he knows very well, CM Punk, a man whose entire existence depends on main eventing WrestleMania. In 2013, it was the bigger story of Rock and Cena that cost him that opportunity, But this dynamic is still really special. Think about it, the idea of Cena becoming a bad guy was really hammered home with the rise of CM Punk. Fans believed that they could turn Cena and have the voice of the voiceless be the man of the people. If there was ever going to be a double turn, it was going to happen in 2011. After all, Punk despised Cena and everything he stood for. He thought he was corporate. He thought he was the phony of all phonies. This entire act was just an act. He was a dynasty. He was the New York Yankees. But John made a believer out of Punk because he stayed true to his word. So many turns of the calendar later, here they were, and John was still that same guy. But there's one more moment. In a moment of high tension, John couldn't beat CM Punk in Chicago. So much history, so much bad blood between the two, and here they were. When John reaches out to shake Punk's hand, having shared so many miles, so many insults, his opponent pulls him in for a hug. After he's eliminated, Seth Rollins comes in and stomps CM Punk out, but the old John Cena would have done something a little bit different. He would have checked for a pulse on his opponent, but here he had ice in his veins, and without hesitation, he took advantage and punched his ticket to Vegas. Rhodes, Cena, WrestleMania 41, WWE Championship. It was that perfect. That generation's good guy, this generation's good guy. 20 years on from his first world title win would come his last. John's quest for 17 would coincide with match number 17 at WrestleMania. A celebration of the guy who never went bad against a mirror image of himself. You couldn't write a better script. But there was one more thing. The offer. A year ago, Cody Rhodes nearly had his WrestleMania main event sabotaged, and he had to fight an entire bloodline to get to where he wanted. He earned The Rock's respect, but the final boss wanted to make him so much more. If Cody became his champion and sold his soul, he could have it all. The lavish lifestyle, a less taxing schedule, Hollywood roles, be at home with his family. All he had to do was turn his back on the people that made him and embrace The Rock. But he didn't. Rock knew that Cody wouldn't, so there was always a plan. John Cena dapped up Cody Rhodes and struck him with a low blow. After all, think about it. He just had help to beat CM Punk. How is he going to handle a guy who's cutting his teeth every single day? How is he going to handle the champion who he watched duke it out and overcome obstacle after obstacle, all while keeping his word? How is he going to overcome, essentially, himself? How does John Cena beat peak Super Cena? John Cena sold his soul to the man he basically called the devil, the same puppet master that he was fighting 12 years ago and imploring everyone he hated with a burning passion. Why? Because he was everything that was disrespectful to him. Like a toy robot that just had a new set of batteries put in, the expression shifted and the game changed. In the same city he announced the end came a new beginning. This all comes down to clarity and desperation. A man who sees that time is passing him by and maybe he can't do the same things that he used to. Maybe he can't do it the same way he used to. Time and time again, he suffered loss after loss after loss. Now he's driven to a point where he knows he's not as strong as he once was. He's not invincible. His body is deteriorating. The clock is ticking. So to preserve his legacy, to beat Cody Rhodes, who has an unmatched resolve, he has to do things differently. Plus, his WrestleMania opponent is being hailed as the greatest good guy since him. 17 will cement him as the greatest of all time, but maybe it's more than that. His motto was always never give up, and now he's given up and given in. Maybe the message is he needs to win in evil ways, but maybe it's a story of John needing to listen to his own message. That this is the one grand error John has made in a near perfect career. Despite fighting through the pain, doing everything with dignity, class, and intelligence, he's brainwashed within himself after years and years of trying to do the same thing and it not sticking.
We all go through patches where we make decisions against our value system. We all turn heel at one point. It's just a matter of if you see the light. And I think that's what makes a lot of the characters redeemable, is if you take a really good guy and then have them lose their way, it's Darth Vader in Star Wars, but you want to root for him because you don't give up on that guy. I know there's good in him.
John Cena has said that if he ever became a bad guy, he'd flip his core values on their head. He'd begin to show up less, not work as hard, not respect the business, and essentially become a hypocrite. Now he's infected with the poison of the final boss. Is selling his soul what gets him everything, or does he need a new chapter to truly find himself again? Regardless of everything, this proves that there truly is evil within everyone.